In today's video, we are going to deep dive into Amazon pay-per-click bulk files. More specifically, we're going to get into bid optimization and how to do it in a spreadsheet versus going through each ad group in Amazon's clunky ad campaign manager. This is going to save you a ton of time. You're going to learn a lot, and in 20 steps, you will be ready to rock and roll. Let's go. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Heist, the YouTube channel that is all things selling on Amazon. As a companion to a previous video I did on Amazon pay-per-click bulk operations in terms of setting up campaigns, we're going to go even further in today's video using a really simple end-to-end 20-step SOP for how you can actually take existing campaigns and optimize the bids. This is really the secret sauce to getting profitable ad campaigns where you're optimizing your bid amounts to maximize sales at a targeted and efficient ACOS. To scale and grow, you've got to know how to optimize bids. The challenge is within Amazon's platform, it's super clunky. You have to go one by one and click back into ad groups, and you can't really be mathematical or algorithmic in terms of making bid changes within the platform. So that changes today. We're going to use spreadsheets. Don't be afraid of bulk files. This stuff's going to be simple. We're going to break it down. And coming out of this in the next 15 minutes or so, you will be armed with the ability to optimize your bids using bulk files. Let's get after it. All right, guys. So today we're going to be walking through step by step a bulk files bid optimization SOP that I've created. It's 20 steps long. It's not super complicated. And this file, which we're going to go through each one of these steps, I'm going to pin in the comments below, as well as the description of this video. So if you want a copy of this link, and you will then have access to it for future reference. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is to go into the Amazon ad campaign setup. And then in the left-hand corner, there's these three little lines. You click that and you can then enter into bulk operations. So going over to one of my accounts here, this is basically what it looks like here. So you go to this bulk operations, drop down here, and then we're actually going to be creating and downloading a custom spreadsheet right here. If you haven't done a ton of bid optimization, or maybe you haven't done any at all, I know a lot of sellers set up campaigns and they just don't really do anything with them. You actually probably want to select the longest date range, which is about 60 days. If you're doing this on a regular weekly cadence or bi-monthly cadence, I would suggest coming down here and getting either the 30 or 14-day file. A couple things you can exclude here. If it's been a terminated campaign, it won't include it. If there's no brand assets data, or if the campaign items have 0 impressions, you can also exclude those. For this setup, I'm going to do that. However, for those with 0 impressions, what you may want to do is deselect that so you can increase bid amounts on campaigns or keywords that aren't getting impressions. But we're just going to leave that selected. And then you just click the create spreadsheet for download file. It takes roughly, 5 minutes, something like that. Come in here and refresh if it's not kind of uploading right away. And then you'll see it coming down here into one of these files. I actually downloaded this file for working on it today. So once you download that file, it's going to spit out an Excel sheet. I personally work in Google Sheets, but you can kind of get right after it if you operate in Excel. What I basically do with the Excel sheet to put it into Google Sheets, I will come in here to the Google Sheets, I'll go to File, Import, and then I'll just drag that file over and it's going to copy over this. So this is basically what the output looks like, something similar to this. I've kind of taken out some of the identifying information out of this stuff, obviously including keyword specifics, things like that. But there's really going to be 3 or 4 tabs. There's going to be the portfolio tabs for each one of your products. If you've set up a portfolio for them, it'll be shown here on this first tab. The sponsored product campaigns is actually what we're going to be working with today, which is pay-per-click and ASIN targeting campaigns. There's also 2 other columns here, which is sponsored brands if you have those going, as well as the sponsored display. So that's the setup. And the first step is to really just delete the tabs that you're not going to do. When you re-upload this thing, I like to take all the guesswork out of it. Only stuff I'm changing, I actually want to upload. So I'm going to come back here, and since I'm not doing anything in the sponsored display, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that one. I'm going to do the exact same thing with sponsored brands. Just get rid of the riffraff. So this is my core sheet. The other thing that I like to do is this is the file untouched that we can upload to Amazon just with the bid changes. all the calculations, all the sorting, all the stuff behind the scenes that we're going to do to figure out what bids to change to, I like to keep that in a separate working tab. So the next thing I like to do here is just duplicate this. And then just to kind of remind myself, I'll just put here working file, delete later. So this is the file that we're going to work in. So now that I've got my working file, I do a couple things here just to help make this easier. I like to just bold this thing here. I also like to create a filter so I can kind of sort all the data and chop it around. And then the other thing I like to do is just to come in here, go to a view freeze, and then I just freeze that one row. And then that just kind of like keeps the top part all sorted out. So we're formatted. On to step 6, see we're humming along here. Step 6 of the 20-step process, we're gonna move fast here, is to realize that all the data in here, any number is basically a text file. So if you try to sort a text entry within a spreadsheet, it just doesn't know what it's doing because it doesn't recognize that it's either a number, currency, or percentage. So for the files that matter, I like to come in here and actually change the number formatting just so we have that in place so that we can make the adjustments that we want. So one thing I'm going to do here is like all these things right here, impressions and clicks, those are actually numbers. So I'll just put that as a number. The spend is obviously a currency, put that as a currency. Orders, both of those things are numbers. And then sales is obviously a currency. And then ACOS, which we're going to sort a lot here, is going to be a percentage, which is right here. Boom. And then the other thing is this max bid amount. That's also, I just throw that in as a dollar amount just so we have that kind of sorted. So all those things can be chopped and we can play around a little bit with the data. Really important as we start to sort filters. So on to step 7, I like to sort by just keywords and the product targeting. There's a lot of other things that may be in here that we really don't care about if we're optimizing for bids. So you're going to come back over here to record type, and you're just going to want to keep here, deselect that, deselect the campaign, deselect the ad group, deselect the ad. We don't care about that level of detail. We want down to the keyword and product targeting level. So just select those two things. It's going to kind of hone the data down a little bit more. On to step 8, I also like to pause any blank campaigns or ad groups. So if we come over here, if we're paused, we're not really actively doing anything with that campaign. So I'm going to deselect pause there. Same thing for this ad group. Get rid of any blanks. And then the status thing here, any of the pause status at this particular keyword level, we don't want to really pay attention to those at this stage too. So we've cleaned that up. So now we have it all formatted. It is ready to play around with. The next thing is to add some custom columns, data fields, and calculations that will help us mathematically and effectively and efficiently adjust our bids. So let's start adding these columns here now. So the next thing we're going to do is add these 7 columns here. The first one is going to be an RPC, or revenue per click. We then want to look at the cost per click data, the current max bid, which is just kind of replicating another column that we have in there. One strategy we're going to look at in terms of bid optimization is the inch up or down method. Another one is going to be a target ACOS bid method. And then finally, we will have our new bid suggestion here. Okay, so steps 10 through 14 is really just plugging in these formulas that we're going to want to have for each one of these columns. The revenue per click is pretty simple, and all these formulas are going to be in this SOP, again, linked down below if you need access to this after this video, is you're just going to be taking the sales divided by your clicks. Pretty simple, right? So this is basically saying making $8.50 on that one, pretty solid. The cost per click, again, pretty simple. We're just going to be taking the total spend here divided by the clicks, and that's our average cost per click. Take that formula down. Current bid is pretty self-explanatory. We just kind of come over here and equal it to this max bid number. Just want to keep it all tidy here on the right-hand side. One thing you'll notice here is that some max bids have a blank value. What this basically means is that particular keyword or ASIN doesn't have a specific bid attached to it. It's actually the ad group level that it's defaulting to in terms of what that max bid is. There's a couple ways that you can do this. The easiest way, if you've got any data, is just to do a cost per click value. So take this cost per click value for anything that's 0 and carry that over. You can also, going back here to the campaign types, you can go back and add the record of ad groups and kind of figure out what that bid is. I'm not going to mess around with any of that here today, just to keep it simple. So anything that's blank, I'll just throw in something like $1. But that is one thing that takes a little bit of digging if you've got no bid amounts, but it's simple enough to just use a cost per click calculation or to go back to the ad group and just see what that default bid is. And another thing you can do to clean up those fields without a current max bid is, obviously if you're negating that keyword, or if you have a negative element in there, it's going to have no bid because you're basically just not bidding on anything. So you basically just come over here to this match type, and then you can just kind of select here, get rid of the campaign negative or the negative exact terms there, and that'll also clean up some of that max bid. So then we just kind of got a clean view of what we're currently bidding on each one of these keywords. Now, one of the strategies that I'm going to talk about here today is the inch up or inch down method. What this basically does is it says, hey, if a particular keyword is above or below a particular threshold ACOS that I want to hit, I want to either inch it up or inch it down on my bid amount. So I'm incrementally adjusting my bids. So one way to look at it in the example we're going to use here today, let's say that our target ACOS is 35%. We're basically going to say, hey, anytime that ACOS is above 35%, I want to reduce the bid 20%. Inversely, anytime the ACOS is below that 35% threshold that we want to hit, I actually want to increase it 20%. You can play with the ACOS target. You can inch it up 5% if you want, but it's basically incrementally selecting a percentage bump up or percentage bump down based on the ACOS performance for that particular keyword or product targeting campaign. So here's what this formula looks like. We're going to basically be doing an if statement, and we're basically saying, hey, if this ACOS in column Y is less than, in our case, a target of 35% ACOS or 0.35, what we want to do is we want to basically increase that bid by 20%. So times 1.2 times the current bid amount. Inversely, if the same ACOS is greater than 35% or 0.35, we want to just do 80% or 0.8 multiplied into our current max bid. And boom, what's that basically saying is that we would increase this bid of 122 up 20% because this ACOS is less than 35%. Let's just kind of make that a dollar value for fun, and we'll just copy that formula all the way down. So you'll see here's one where the ACOS is above 35%. So we basically taken that 122 and we bumped it down in 98 cents. So that's the inch up, inch down method. Again, you can customize the ACOS target that you want to have, and you can change the incremental bid up or bid down percentage. One way to do this. The second way to do this is basically just say, hey, I want to bid at my max on what my targeted ACOS is. You can bid down from that if you're doing down only bidding strategies, but I want to set the max limit where I know I'm profitable and can break even with my particular ACOS target. So in this case, what we basically need to do is we need to take this revenue per click variable, pretty simple, and just multiply that into our targeted ACOS, in this case 35. So you'll see some bigger swings with this because we're not doing incrementality, right? So sometimes you'll see big increases up, sometimes you'll see big increases down. Obviously, if we have not achieved any revenue at all, if it's a 0% campaign, this formula doesn't work. So that's why you see those div errors. But here's another example, right? So it's basically just saying, hey, we would pay up to $2.97 at a 35% ACOS target for this particular word. So it just gives you a more dialed view. Typically used for more mature campaigns, frankly. If you've just launched campaigns, I generally do the inch up, inch down method so you can kind of slowly, kind of incrementally improve your ACOS. But if you've had campaigns running for a while, you've got decent data, and you know kind of hard line what you want to achieve, that's where the target ACOS bid formula comes into play. So we've now outlined that entire strategy across two different things. Now we can start thinking about, hey, what do we want our new bid to be? Which version of those two options do we want to choose for different campaigns? I like to do it in two different buckets. One is where we've got at least some sales, so we can kind of start looking at campaigns that have actually done something. And then the second part of this is really looking at 0% ACOS or campaigns that I've had 0 sales on. So first thing I'm gonna do is come to this ACOS. I'm gonna deselect 0%. That means anything that doesn't have a sale. And then I've got my ACOS here. You might wanna sort that by highest to lowest just to get a bit better of a view there. So now kind of from my worst performing campaigns that have a sale down to my best with the lowest sales, I'm just gonna kind of wanna look, and this is where it's honestly a little bit of a human touch. I know what my current bid is here. I know my 2 different methods. I can then just select, hey, what do I want my particular bid to be? In this case, I'm just gonna assume I'm gonna do inch up, inch down for all of these just to keep it simple. But oftentimes, again, looking at these with a human eye, kind of matching the algorithm and math with a human eye and touch, maybe even looking at the actual keywords to see how relevant they are and what campaigns are in. A lot of those things play into this. I'm gonna select which method and oftentimes customize it. But just to keep it simple, I'm just gonna assume that we're gonna do all these campaigns as the inch up, inch down method, and just run those down. So once you've actually got your campaigns or keywords with a actual sale, the next thing is to look at the really dud campaigns that have no sales activity yet. So we're gonna come back here to this ACOS filter. I'm just gonna clear the whole thing, come down to the 0, and this is just basically all campaigns without a sale. So the next thing I typically want to do is actually filter by either spend or clicks. So something that I've either dumped money into or it's seen sufficient impressions such that it makes sense for me to adjust the bid. So I could come in here to something like spend, and you could do something like, hey, I want to filter for greater than or equal to $10. Hit OK. And then it's going to basically just say, hey, these are campaigns that you spent money on. The ACOS is 0. You likely want to adjust some bids there. So again, here's one that I've spent $50 on. I've seen 24 clicks, almost 4,500 people have seen it. I'm currently spending a cost per click of $2.10. My current max bid is $4. So obviously the inch up or down method doesn't make sense because I actually haven't gotten a sale. So I'll typically look at this cost per click here, and I'll just take it and I'll just say, hey, I want to do 80% of this cost per click on all these guys here. So that's my new bid. Instead of 210, I'm going to actually bid 168, and then I'll decrease all of those by 20%. You could do other things if you want to get a little bit more drastic and you've seen way more volume. You could either pause it. So you could even come over here to the status and pause. There's a lot of things you can do here, but that's one way to do it. Now, the ones that have less than $10 in ad spend, you could again dig into those and adjust those bids. Oftentimes I'll leave those alone if they don't have enough clicks or we haven't spent enough money yet. I'll kind of like let them be and see if we can generate a little bit more data. And then when there's enough data, if we run this on a weekly basis, it will get pulled into that broader activity. So to clean this thing up, the next thing I'm going to do is just come to this data and just get rid of all these filters. So I come to filter views, filter view options, and then I just basically delete the filters. Now I've got all this stuff here. The other thing that I want to do is kind of come over here to my new bid column and just make that plain text across the board. Okay, so one thing I like to do is actually save the file as an actual uploader file so I can save all this work as reference. So I'll typically come in here to this file, I'll make a copy, and then I'll just call it, my brand name, bulk uploader, PPC file, and then today's date. Save that. So I've got my new file. I'll just come over here to the working file, go all the way over to my new bid column, go to my sponsored products. I'm going to go to this max bid, copy that in there like this. Boom. I'm just going to call this max bid. Keep it simple like it was named before. Now that file is ready, I just gotta want to actually delete this file here because if you include that working file, it's going to cause some errors. So I'm just going to delete that sucker. Yeah, I'm good to delete it. Boom. Then I basically come in here, download the file as a Microsoft Excel sheet. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. And then I'm going to come back to my advertising bulk sheet. And then this is where I basically just choose this file, upload it. It says it takes up to hours to kind of load this stuff. Typically it's going to be done in a handful of minutes, no more than 10 minutes oftentimes. And then you basically just come over here, and here's an example of one I did on the 22nd, sponsored ads bulk file. It's successful. If you have any errors, you'll see something like this with an error. Oftentimes it's that you forgot to delete a tab or there's something funky, so you can look at the error codes to see where that exists. But if you did everything like this and you did it successfully and there's no errors, it's uploaded, and now you bulk change bids for potentially thousands of words in 10 to 15 minutes. So aside from using AI automated software that's out there to optimize bids, if you want to do this in a more scaled way using your own methodologies, a combination of math, algorithm, and a human touch, you just had it. Step 1 to 20. The link to the SOP again is going to be pinned in the top comments as well as the description. I also want to do a shout out to a couple YouTube channels I'm going to link in the description below. One is Jungler, JUNGLR. They have a lot of awesome videos on other bulk files, and they're definitely more experts than I am because they run pay-per-click campaigns. And I've also learned a lot from the Ad Badger YouTube account. Just really awesome podcast talking about the latest techniques and strategies from somebody that lives and breathes Amazon pay-per-click. Hope this was valuable, guys. I'm going to do some more videos in the future on bulk operations with pay-per-click and other things, so hope you've got a kick out of it. Stay tuned for next week where we're going to have another heist seller story. So if this is your first time here, smash the subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment, click on that link to get the SOP, and we will see you next time. Boom.